My story starts back in a time where I was a completely different person. When I was in elementary school, I had trouble fitting in with other people. I was shy, I got into a lot of fights, I had anger management issues, and I couldn't relate well to other people's interests. I didn't understand competition like other kids did. For example, PE was everyone else's favorite class, it was my least favorite. My parents were always looking to look out for something new to sign me up for that would help me enjoy doing things with other people. Of these things, they began to notice a pattern. I could focus on anything involving a creative outlet of some kind, and I would thoroughly enjoy doing it with other people who shared that focus. It was around third grade when my life started to change for the better. In music class, we started playing a magical instrument called the recorder, which was my first instance of seeing actual written out music to play from. I would like to invite a third grade version of myself out on stage to play a duet with me.
Hey buddy, wanna play a duet?
Yes.
I was immediately hooked. There were so many different kinds of recorders to choose from at Master. Soprano, alto, sopranino, garkline, tenor, bass, contrabass. I wanted to play them all. I would end up learning our songs so well to the point where I could play them backwards on command without thinking. I would find online videos of people playing amazing recorders and watch in awe. I even wrote out recorder fingering charts by hand on notebook paper with a pen for my friends. This was when my parents realized I had an aptitude for music. Later that year, my mom started to teach me piano. She began with the basics and essentially taught me the fundamentals of how the instrument worked. Pretty soon, she knew I needed to be taking lessons from a piano teacher that was also working with many other students. She knew I needed this in order to start working better with other people. We found a woman by the name of Capstone through the recommendation of a friend and signed up for a lesson with her. Quite honestly, our first lesson was not good. It wasn't Kathy's fault by any means, though. I had gone in and basically told her that I had no interest in playing music, and I was only there because my parents were making me. This was very odd because I had told my mom that the lesson went very well and that I liked Kathy a lot. For the record, I do not remember this. I was just having a hard time with the new situation, just like many others. Kathy gave my dad a call the next day and started to explain that she didn't think lessons would work out very well. Clearly, he was confused because I told my parents, I think she's a really nice lady and I really like my lesson today. Like many other new situations, I was encouraged to just try it a second time. To make it more fun, my mom told me that she would come in with me and play a duet with me to make me feel comfortable. We went back, and the second lesson was much more fun and successful. Kathy's reaction was priceless. She said to my mom, never in all my years of teaching piano have I ever had my student and their parent come in and play for me. Now that Kathy understood that I was different, things started to get better and better as we continued lessons. When I was in the 4th grade, my sister Kylie began 7th grade at a crazy art school called Arts and Communication Magnet Academy, where weird was the norm, self-expression was valued, and individual interests were prominent. Also, they had an award-winning music department. It was like the icing on top of an already perfect cake. Of course, I was interested. Kylie was always talking about the great teachers, the wonderful programs, and the amazing things the school had been doing. Also, I thought that eating lunch in the halls was pretty cool. Anyways, my parents were in a conference with Kylie's Ohana teacher at some point during the year, and the teacher, who valued Kylie's hard work and creativity, asked my parents if Kylie had any siblings who were similar to her. This is when we started to realize that Akron would be the perfect place for somebody like me. Earlier, back in my 3rd grade year, I had received an acoustic guitar for Christmas. I never really started playing it until 4th grade, when we started to play some jazz songs in music class. This jazz stuff was a totally different type of music that I got to play on the guitar with a completely different set of rules than the classical music I'd been learning on piano. I'd heard from my music teacher, Mr. Parker, that jazz could also be played on other instruments. When I heard this, I wanted to try and play jazz piano. This led to my deep love of jazz that I would rediscover years later. 5th grade came along, and this obviously meant that I needed to start preparing for middle school. I remember shadowing my friend Mary Beth at ACMA and really enjoying all the crazy things I saw and heard. The time had finally arrived to apply for ACMA, and I was so excited to see if I was going to get in. Unfortunately, this was the year of the introduction to the lottery system, and my name was not pulled. Since there was no other way to get into ACMA at the time, I was stuck going to a regular school for 6th grade. After I completed 5th grade, my awesome dad got me a graduation gift of sorts. The gift was a small 5-watt Vox amplifier, a guitar cable, and a pickup to put in my acoustic guitar. For those of you who don't know, a pickup in a guitar is a magnet that picks up the vibrations of guitar strings and transfers them to an audio signal. So essentially, having a pickup for my acoustic guitar meant that I could plug it into an amp and play anything and make it sound like an electric guitar. This was the beginning of the rock music side to me that not many people seem to know about. For 6th grade band at Highland Park Middle School, I knew that I had to play a concert band instrument, so I started thinking about what I would play. My uncle got us thinking about the clarinet, because the transfer from a quarter would be easier than anything else. We agreed and went looking for a clarinet. My dad had a friend with a 20-year-old clarinet in his garage that was not being used and was in need of repair. He generously gave it to my dad for free, and all we needed to do was fix it up and begin lessons. I began taking lessons from the clarinet player at my church, who was also a close personal friend of my uncle. To this day, Phil Baldino is still my clarinet teacher, and he has truly worked me hard and shaped me into the clarinet player I am today. I'm going to play an excerpt from Carl Maria von Weber's Concertino in E-flat major for B-flat clarinet and orchestra, Opus 26, with accompaniment from the Akron Classical Orchestra under the direction of Marianne Campbell. As 6th grade went on, I progressed quicker than the others in my band due to my hard work with my clarinet teacher. It got to the point where I would just sit and listen while the band director, Mandy Mullet, yelled at the trumpets, saxophones, flutes, tubas, and trombones about the wrong fingerings. Through this process, I gathered enough information to be able to understand the basic workings of nearly every concert band instrument. Since I was ahead, I thought I would audition for the honor band at DeHaven's Park to play more challenging music. I was one of the only 6th graders who auditioned, and I was extremely nervous considering I'd been playing the clarinet for only a matter of months. Miss Mullet knew I was nervous and comforted me during the audition, and I played pretty well. I found out the next week that I was the only 6th grader who had gotten in. I was really excited and I worked really hard on all of my music for the remainder of the year. I felt at home in this honor band because all of the people in it were just like me, creative, focused, and had a music-centered realm of interest. Halfway through the year, I discovered that I could try to get into ACMA through the lottery again. I put my name in, and I didn't get in. Needless to say, I was really upset. I was starting to dislike more and more the way the people at Highland Park were treating me. Students and teachers didn't understand me. There were miscommunications with friends that got me sent to the office as a result of fights, and I had stuff stolen from my binder multiple times, which put me way behind in my classes. The only times I actually enjoyed at Highland Park were during the 3 rehearsals each week with the honor band. At this point, I desperately needed a saving grace. Luckily, we heard of pretty much the best thing ever, second consideration. I was joyful again because I could actually get the chance to go in and explain why I wanted to go to ACMA and show them what I was capable of doing. I had Kathy and Phil prepare me for the audition the best that they could. I had something ready to play on guitar, clarinet, and piano, just in case the band director wanted to hear me play all 3. When I went in to do my audition, I had all my music prepared, and the band director, Robert Crowell, was there to hear me play. Unfortunately, he only had time for one instrument, so I picked guitar because I felt the most prepared for that one. I played my guitar and went to the car to go home. My dad asked me, "Did you play all 3 instruments?" I said, "No, he only had time for guitar." He said, "What? Okay, we're going back in there so we can listen to you play the clarinet, let's go." This was so out of character for my dad, because usually he has things all planned out and organized. For him to rush me back in at an unscheduled time was surprising, so I knew he really must have been serious. We caught Robert on the way out of the band room, and he agreed to stay a bit longer and listen to me play the clarinet. He listened intently the entire time, and the look on his face was much different than before when he was listening to me play the guitar. When I was done, he gave me some really nice compliments that looked promising to the outcome of the situation. A month later, we got a phone call from the counseling office at ACMA saying that I had gotten in. We immediately rushed to ACMA, we didn't even call ahead of time, we just drove there. We immediately rushed to ACMA to fill out my schedule for the following year and to thank Margaret for the call. Soon after that, everything started to look up for me. 7th grade, my first year at ACMA, was truly a great year. Not only was I in jazz band and orchestra, surrounded by people who loved music as much as I did, but no matter where I was constantly surrounded by students and teachers who all understood me and shared my passion for creativity, no matter what it was. This was also the first year that I wasn't shy, that I stopped getting into fights, and that I was no longer considered stupid, dorky, and weird for liking music as much as I did. My friend group transformed from very few close friends to countless extremely close friends. I was finally happy. The only sad part about it was that Robert Crowell, the man who had apparently spoken very highly of me in order to get me into ACMA, was no longer teaching. Luckily, the current band director, Conti Bennett, was there to fill his shoes quite nicely. I played clarinet in the orchestra, and from my knowledge of the trumpet that I gained during 6th grade band, I ended up playing trumpet in the jazz band. I'm sure Conti remembers that. I wanted to play saxophone, but my clarinet teacher told me that I needed to play clarinet longer and develop my skill before picking up a similar instrument like saxophone. I waited a year, and then I decided that I would try to play tenor saxophone in the jazz band for 8th grade. So, at the start of the year, I rented a school saxophone so that I could have something to learn on. After the first day of band, which also happened to be the first day I picked up saxophone, Conti Bennett pulled me aside and told me that I had what it took to move up to the advanced jazz band the following year. I was thrilled when I heard this news and started working extra hard to improve my playing ability over the course of my 8th grade year. 8th grade went by fast. My musical knowledge of different genres was constantly expanding, especially within the realm of jazz music. I was asking for more solos, sitting in with the lower bands when I could, and always asking Conti what I could do to better myself as a musician. By the end of that year, I had built a sense of trust with Conti that I did not share with any other teacher, not to mention that I became comfortable with calling him by his first name. With the addition of saxophone to the list of instruments I play, and the gain of the title Advanced Saxophonist, I started to take music much more seriously than I already was. The following summer, I found my own saxophone to play on. I went with my friend to a house where a man fixed and sold vintage saxophones for the best prices around Portland. While I was there, I probably played on 25 different saxophones before narrowing it down to one. My saxophone of choice, which I still use to this day, is a 1942 Conn tenor saxophone. With an antique instrument like this, my wish to pursue music in a serious manner only grew stronger. Just before my 9th grade year was the start of my involvement with the Portland Youth Jazz Orchestra, or PIJO for short, directed by Ben and Michelle Medler. The goal of this program is to educate young musicians of all levels about the ways of playing great jazz music. I joined in order to improve my playing ability and to get ready for the advanced band in the fall. I continued participating in PIJO as my 9th grade school year went on, as well as playing in the orchestra and jazz band at ACMA. 9th grade was also the first year that I joined my church's band as a lead guitarist on a regular rotation, which I still actively do today. At that point in my life, I was basically surrounded by music at any given moment, and I could have not been any happier. Since the start of high school, I have been working towards a long-term goal of avidly and consistently improving my musical abilities. I spent most of my time in 9th grade researching and learning about everything from the historical origins of music to more complex things like music theory, jazz chord structure, and the science behind sound and the way that it can be used to create music. I asked my teachers big questions whenever I got the chance to, listened to more types of music in order to further educate myself, and I took any extra opportunities I could get to play more music. Along with my extra hard work and successful improvements as a musician this year, I also attended the Mel Brown Summer Jazz Workshop for the first time, which was the start of a yearly tradition that I have kept up with since then. This was also the first year that I played in the pit orchestra for the ACMA Theater Company's musicals, which I have done every year since. The musicals I have played for are as follows: Little Shop of Horrors, Godspell, The Fantastics, the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, and Oliver. The instruments I have played for these productions include tenor saxophone, clarinet, piano, synthesizer, auxiliary percussion, and electric guitar. Playing music for musical theater is an important part of me, and I would not be the musician I am today without the experience of playing at these shows. 10th grade was a really important year for me in terms of self-discovery. At first, I was interested in improving my grades and to hopefully start on a path towards figuring out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Though I was motivated to boost my academic progression and learn about my future, nothing really changed for me in terms of homework habits or work ethic outside of music. However, I was still obviously revved up and ready to work harder than ever before to perfect my musical skills. This year was the start of a new me within my music. I began to rehearse with the ACMA Advanced Jazz Combo on a regular basis. I had played with them before, but this year was the first year that the entire combo was willing to regularly rehearse for all the gigs we played. Our work ethic was strong, we constantly tried out new songs, listened to each other's ideas, made decisions together, and we played with a special musical chemistry unlike any other group that I was playing in at the time. Playing with this band inspired me to expand my musical abilities from only playing instruments. I wanted to try things like arranging, conducting, teaching, working with sound production. This year was the beginning of each of these things in my life. 1, I began arranging music for our band to play at gigs. 2, I was in charge of rehearsing and conducting the jazz band when Conti was absent. 3, I began teaching private lessons to younger ACMA students. And 4, I began to use my understanding of technology and the science of sound to make audio recordings of my music, like a music producer in a studio. 2 of these 4 things stuck out to me: music production and conducting. There was a special feeling that I got when I was standing in front of a band conducting and I heard them play music that I had taught them. I also loved being able to hear a recording that I had specifically shaped and mixed to my liking. These 2 things, production and directing, has been my main musical focus since I discovered my love for them. I left 10th grade knowing that I wanted my future to involve one of these 2 thrilling aspects of music, whether it was my main profession or just a side job. 11th grade was a turning point for me in my academic performance and work ethic. I started working harder on assignments, organizing myself, regularly keeping a to-do list, and making sure I never missed due dates on any projects I was assigned. I became a lot happier than before since I worried less about my grades, which left me more time to start thinking about college and what I wanted to do with my future. This was also the first year that I was a teacher assistant for Conti. I worked with beginning band, music seminar, and intermediate band students every other day, which obviously meant a lot of teaching and directing on my behalf. My involvement with musical activities only increased as time went on. I continued playing in the Portland Youth Jazz Orchestra's or PIJO's pro-level band as well. When I wasn't working on PIJO music, I started to regularly arrange music for small groups, record songs with friends, and play professional level gigs. The more I arranged, played, and recorded music, the more I wanted to delve into the art of audio recording and production. I spent most of my free time in 11th grade learning about how to mix and master audio, and over the course of the year, I also gained a lot of experience working as a musical director in front of a band. I began to specifically imagine what I wanted my future to look like based on my interests, and it was obvious to me that I wanted to study music as my main focus and profession. My love for both teaching and recording was already shaping my everyday life, and I couldn't imagine a future that wasn't directly shaped by these as well. By the end of junior year, I basically knew where my interests sat for post-high school plans. Around mid-May, just after the madness of everyone's capstones, I was approached by Mr. Bertram in the food court during the supervised study period. He and his wife, Alana, were directing a musical at Akron that summer, and were planning on using live music for the first time. They were wondering if I wanted to be the musical director for it, thinking it would be a great way to invest time in expanding my abilities as a musician and teacher. I gladly accepted the wonderful opportunity and started looking at the music once he gave it to me. As the musical director, it was my job to arrange the music as I saw fit, choose what instruments were to be used, work with the singers and make their solos sound great, and keep track of musical cues for every song. It was an exciting and unique experience, and it greatly increased my love for teaching and working with other people to create something amazing. In July, we had 4 weeks to get ready for the show. I spent 6 hours per day in rehearsals with the actors doing many different things. Mr. Bertram would take the ensemble people, while Mrs. Bertram and I would work with the soloists in a separate place. This extremely intimate encounter with the student, completely changed the way I looked at being a teacher and musical director. I was able to experience it firsthand, which was something I had never fully been able to do. It was very different from the other times I played music for Acme's musicals, because this time I had permission to do things like stop everybody and tell them what to do. Usually this was my mom's job, because she was always the musical director. But this time I was able to shape things to my liking. This musical, the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, is one of the best things I've ever done in my entire life. I got to work on an amazing production with the Bertrams that turned into everything I wanted it to be. This was the experience that secured my enormous desire to become a music teacher. I don't think Mr. Bertram did that. Thank you, by the way. Love you. Senior year came along before I could blink twice. This is the year of big scary things like graduation, life preparation, taking the first steps into adulthood, and of course the most frightening of them all, Capstone. I had been planning mine since about 9th grade, and I had so many ideas that I wanted to use and implement. How was I supposed to pick and choose what songs to play, and what instruments to play, and who was I going to have playing with me, and how would I be sure I get the main stage as my venue? None of these questions left my head for quite some time. I also had to consider what my art component was going to be. Would it be a recording I made, or a song I wrote, a concert I put on and directed, a piece I arranged? What would it be? In my personal opinion, an art component should demonstrate your abilities within your art form and also demonstrate that you have found a way to show its relevance to your growth as an artist and a person. I finally settled on an idea that would show my skills and relate music to my future. This was my idea. I will write an arrangement of a famous jazz song and teach it to Acme's advanced jazz band. They will perform this at my capstone, and it will feature me playing saxophone. I thought this idea was perfect for me because I could take as many creative turns as I wanted to, and it would be perfectly okay because it would be my creation. I also believe that it shows my growth as a musician, because if I had not started playing the saxophone in 8th grade, I would not be the musician I am now. Since I picked up the saxophone 4.5 years ago, I have been honored to receive the following recognitions: 2 honorable mentions and 1 outstanding soloist award from the Lionel Hampton International Jazz Festival. I was placed in the All-State High School Jazz Band twice. I was elected 2 separate times as lead alto saxophonist in Portland's All-Star Student Big Band, featuring legendary artists from around the world. Jazz band can start coming on now. And alongside these amazing honors, saxophone has provided me with a relatively steady source of income over the past 4 years. Needless to say, I'm really glad I started playing the saxophone. This next piece was originally performed by a small 4-person band, but I have arranged it by a 14-person big band, and I've taught it to Acme's Advanced Jazz Orchestra. This is my custom arrangement of Deluge by Wayne Shorter, featuring myself on the tenor saxophone. choosing that song was one that involved hours upon hours of figuring out complex harmonies that would sound great together in a large band like that. It included a huge amount of trial and error and frustrating attempts to write out the parts in a way that would complement each section of the band nicely. I have been writing that arrangement of that song since the middle of August, and I finished it about a month or two ago. Though the process was long and tedious, I believe that every second I spent on it was worth it. I think that that's the sign that you truly have a passion for doing something, when you can spend countless hours working on one thing and not even get sick of it in the slightest. I may have exhausted myself quite a few times and possibly lost way too much sleep over working on that project, but when I was in front of that band, teaching it to them and hearing my creation come to life, it felt nothing short of pure joy. As a senior, the time had come to start making solid decisions regarding college, not just brainstorming them. I had to apply for universities and work on perfecting audition songs that would determine my future. I also had to deal with keeping my grades up, and I had to make sure that I remained reliable to all of my friends, teachers, and colleagues that I played music with on a regular basis. Needless to say, there's been a lot going on in my head this year. On top of that, I've been asking myself what I wanted to study first, recording and production or teaching. I have developed a strong sense of love for each, and I was equally good at each of them. What would I choose? Well, after carefully considering my options and finding out that I received nearly a full ride music scholarship, I have decided to attend the University of Denver in Colorado this fall to major in recording and production. I was one of 5 students chosen from national auditions to participate in this recording and production degree program at DU, making this the choice of a lifetime and certainly one that I could not say no to. After I complete my bachelor's degree in recording, I plan to spend a 5th year at a different college to work on earning my master's degree in teaching. I hope to one day become a full-time high school band director with a home recording studio on the side. As my departure from high school comes closer, I can't help but start to miss ACMA already. This is the sad part. I only have 2 months left at the school, and I don't think I'm ready to say goodbye to my second home or any of the brilliant artists that live in it. ACMA has changed me from a misunderstood, unhappy musical weirdo into a well-taught, successful, happy, understood, liked, and respectable musician who's still a weirdo, but ACMA does that too. I've learned so much about myself this year in the process of preparing for big, important things like Capstone and college auditions. So much of my time has been spent working on homework, filling out college applications, trying to keep up with my hectic schedule, and learning music for various performances. I can't remember the last time I put a lot of effort into playing music solely for the fun of it. Don't get me wrong, I love all the music that I've been playing this year, and it's all fun. I'm just saying, there's so much of this music, it doesn't give me any time to work on any personal compositions or recordings only for the sake of enjoyment. Part of me says, come on, all your friends are writing music and making recordings of themselves, you need to do more of that. While the other part of me says, all that cool music you recorded and played for other people was worth all your time and you should feel good. Another thing I learned about myself during my time at ACMA is that I'm more likely to jump at the opportunity to help somebody else with their music than to help myself with my own. Since I just spent all year learning music for a reason, and since I'm going to have 4 years to learn how to help others record their music, I just want to take some time and help myself by ending with a song that I've always wanted to perform, just for fun, for no reason, just to enjoy it. The last song I will be playing is called I Don't Need No Doctor by Ray Charles, as performed by John Mayer. It's a very open-ended song, and it leads to a lot of possibilities for cool musical things to happen. I'd like to close with some advice for the younger students in the audience. When somebody of higher power than you says something seriously, they mean it. There are rarely exceptions. If you have Chapter 7 notes due next class, do them. If Mr. Albertson says you missed your last chance to retake the test you bombed last week, you screwed up. If Mr. Michaels mentions something about an essay, go to his website, find the assignment, complete the essay, and have it ready for the next class. Lastly, if Jill Starling mentions a deadline, it's a deadline. Always. I promise that taking all this advice will pay off big time. Respect your teachers and counselors. They deserve 10 times what they receive to work here and teach you. Lastly, please take care of ACMA and what it offers you. There is no better place to benefit a teenage artist's growth. Thank you for everything, ACMA. I will miss you. Enzo's going to play a chord for you guys on the setup. open things up, I'd like to thank some people. Josiah Boucher, Brianna Beck, and China Singh for working the tech booth. Miss Campbell and the Acma Classical Orchestra for 6 full years of amazing music. Monty Bennett and the entire rest of the music department for advice and helping my growth as a person over the years. Nolan Hamer for taking time out of his extremely busy PSU schedule to play drums for me today. My parents and my sister Kylie for the love and support over the years. Kathy Toma and Brian Bertram for successfully helping craft my capstone. Every single person in this auditorium for coming to my capstone today. Thank you.